Clinton City Council will please come to order. We'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Here.
Seeley?
Here.
McGraw?
Here.
Detterman?
Here.
O'Neill?
Here.
Connell?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Detterman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
After you get done shuffling your papers.
Shuffling papers. I move to dispense with the reading of the regular council meeting minutes and the committee of the whole minutes of June 14th, 2016, and they be approved as published on June 28th, 2016.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Connell?
Yes.
Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
Detterman?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Thank you. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move immediately into audience comment, of which I see I have a yellow slip coming toward me.
Better than a pink slip.
No pink slips tonight, James Macon would like to speak to the council. So-
I think we have your copy.
It's this one or no? This one right here. Because it has a different clip. These are all pink clips,
Right over here.
right?
If you step up to the microphone and identify yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Jim Machin, here in Clinton, Iowa. What I would like to speak to you about is making an appeal about a sidewalk. We purchased a home on 1115 11th Avenue about 3 years ago. It was a repo house, and we put a lot of work into the home, thinking that we would move there in the future. The work that we did, one of the things we did was take the sidewalk out in front that was in bad repair, and we put grass in there, rolled grass, to match what the neighbor has. And we've been working at that for some time, but due to the fact that we didn't get our home sold and health problems for my wife for the past couple of years, we've decided we're not going to try to make that move. We sold the house. Matter of fact, we closed on it this morning. I received this letter Saturday, and and then I called Jason, and he instructed me that it would be good for me to come and share this with you. The picture I'm showing there is the property from the driveway, and it shows, now my property line goes up just about to that little skinny tree there, and then it's grass all the way down to the rest of the way to 11th or 11th Street. So the sidewalk, I thought I was doing a good thing when we took it out because of the fact it was in disarray. But the concern, I guess one person has a concern and came in and commented on that, and because of that we received this letter. And so I'm asking for an appeal that we can leave it like it is, but I just wanted to come and share that with you and ask for your consideration.
Okay. Unfortunately, we as a council, because it's not on our agenda, can't discuss it with you tonight.
That's
But-
fine.
But we can, I see that Jason, you have had conversation with him, and I'm sure that Jason and the city administrator can have a conversation with you. We can set up a time that you can talk to him about this
Thank you.
matter. And then from there, it may come back to the council or, whatever action we decide to take.
And thank you for that, and thank you for listening. Jason, I was to meet him here at 6:45, but I haven't been able to locate him, so.
Oh, he's sitting right over there.
My son. And so I'm sorry we missed. I was over in your office at it. And so any consideration you give on that, we'd appreciate it. Whatever you would do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real quick, Jason, isn't there a board that can actually review that prior to?
Well, let them talk first, and then, because like I said, we can't really discuss it right now.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to address the council tonight before we move on? Well, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Councilmember Detterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move we approve the consent agenda as presented on the attachment.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to motions, resolutions, and ordinances. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance for consideration for the second time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the City of Clinton, Iowa by deleting Chapter 79A, Residential Permit Parking Districts. I'm just gonna do two.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do the third one.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think that, this is nothing that's expedient, and I'm not a big fan of 2 and 3 times, so, if we can leave it, in case somebody wants to ask why we're doing it, that's fine.
That's fine. Councilmember Gassman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance for the first consideration.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
An an ordinance amending Chapter 156 floodplain regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Clinton, Iowa.
Thank you. Councilmember Seeley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution honoring the city of Clinton's sister city, Erfda, Germany, for hosting the 2016 Friendship Conference at the American Schleswig-Holstein Heritage Society. I move this resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Gassman,
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Connell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution authorizing a 28E agreement for purchase and maintenance of a computer-aided dispatch and records management software system with the Clinton County Sheriff's Department, DeWitt Police Department, Comanche Police Department, and Clinton County Communications. I move the resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McGraw.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution to write off sewer and solid waste charges from deceased customers' accounts. I
Second.
move-
Oops, sorry.
I move that the resolution be adopted as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember O'Neill.
Just a little clarification, so, there's not the misperception we're writing off, sewer bills. These are accounts that, probably go back 8, 9, 10 years. These are people that have been deceased. There's nothing left in their estates. There's nothing really to tap into. Part of our audit was if you can't use it, lose it. So, we're not gonna get any money out of these. We need to get it off the books. So, eventually, it's a total of $13,316. That's part of the part that's been whittled down from an exorbitant amount from 2 years ago of $700,000. And again, kudos to our finance department and our staff. We've got that down to a manageable amount. And this is part that no sense in sending it to a collection agency, so we are going to write that 13,000 off, and the rest is going to be sent to collections and is already in payment programs. So.
Any other discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman.
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes motions, resolutions, and ordinances for tonight. We have no unfinished business, so Councilmember Detterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move we adjourn to 7 PM, July 12th, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Connell.
Yes.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and we will go immediately into the Clinton City Council Committee of the Whole for June 28th. And whenever our city clerk is ready, you
Yes,
can
Your
start
Honor.
with roll call, please.
Councilmember Gassman.
Here.
Seeley.
Here.
McGraw.
Here.
Detterman.
Here.
O'Neill.
Here.
Connell.
Here.
Thank you. The first item is a request for an urban renewal area for Saddle Ridge. What-
Mayor, I had advised the first two items that 7:30 was generally a safe
Well,
time to be
then
here.
we're in big trouble here.
And so I didn't know if Mr. Milroy was still present to, just if we could jump to item
Okay.
number 3.
That's when you were optimistic of how long that meeting was.
This went really quick
Yes.
tonight.
Okay. Okay, so, and I see Jason's not here. We could move all the way, oh, Bob is here. I was gonna say, we could move all the way down to Councilmember O'Neill. So I was hoping we wouldn't have a meeting next. Bob, we decided to, we decided to jump right into item number 3, the amendments to chapter 52, the sewer use ordinance.
Because you're here and 1 and 2 aren't.
Bob Milroy, Water Quality Superintendent. I was up here last, or 2 weeks ago, and we were going over some revisions on the sewer use ordinance. And I was instructed that time to do some research, and I've done that. The issues that we wanted to research, one was is how many, what I did is I went to contact 11 communities and asked them all the same questions. And the results that I got on 3 subjects were, one is the amount of acreage required for a septic system. Most communities did not have a specific acreage amount listed in their ordinances. So our current ordinance says 2 acres for the city of Clinton. We're recommending we leave it at 2 acres. The other issue that I was asked to research was how many feet do they have to, or how far away do they have to be to a city service before they would qualify for a septic service. And of those 11 communities is anywhere from 200 to 300 feet. We're recommending 300 feet. And then the last issue I checked on was I wanted to increase the penalties for falsifying information on pre-treatment documents to $2,500. I think 8 of the 11 communities I checked had $1,000. But then after I wrote this memo, I was notified by the city attorney, I believe state code only allows $1,000. So knowing that, I'm recommending $1,000.
Oh, I just have a question.
Okay?
In what we have in our packet, when you have 52.005, you have 400 feet for, what is it here, gravity, and 200 feet for pressurized.
Yes.
So you're wanting to just put it as a flat 300 feet
Yes.
and take that, strike that,
Yes.
that verbiage out? Okay, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same
Sure.
section.
Understood.
Okay. So, what questions does anyone have of Bob?
Kind of appears we're a little, I guess, a little bit harsh on our requirements, doesn't it seem, compared to other cities?
Well, a lot of cities just, what they're doing is referring to other codes, state code or county codes.
We got our own building.
What is our county code?
Our county code it doesn't have a specific amount of
Okay.
acreage.
Yeah.
I checked
Oh,
several
yeah.
county codes and I
2
couldn't find a acre amount for any of them.
That's also what we found with state code as
Yeah.
well, that it's the term reasonable. And I think that really gets to the definition of why we're trying to do this, is reasonable might be something different to all of us sitting up here. And so when you're asking a staff member to determine what's reasonable, if you have a number, that's what's really helping to draw a line of that definition, and therefore ensure that we're treating all individuals the same.
I did find 3 communities that did have an acreage requirement. 2 of them had 1 acre. The other one there was an acreage requirement, 20,000 square feet. Is how it was written in the
Half an
ordinance.
This is for septic?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's a half.
So half an acre, basically.
Half an acre.
But we have a 2-acre requirement.
That's what's currently in our ordinance.
That seems a little heavy.
I'm sure that's what the county says.
But doesn't the county have don't we have a 2-acre requirement to build out in the county?
No, I think aren't we up to
Yeah.
5 now to
No,
build
it's
the city?
2, but
Two.
that has to do with water quality, but it also has to do with urban sprawling.
Right.
So it's not directly related just to septics.
No, but you're at least, part of the problem, at least I've ran into it really is, it's okay if you got 2 acres and a septic, but once that septic's been leached or it needs to be redone, if you're only on 1 acre, there's nowhere to go unless you get over in the neighbor's.
That would be correct.
Yeah, so that's the problem with 1 acre, is that you can't replace this. Once the septic tank's all been leached out and done, and you gotta replace it, you don't have enough room on 1 acre. You need 2 acres at least to build a new septic tank. I ran into it with a house that just built, and they had to, luckily, the septic tank was shared by the neighbors, so they spread it out into the neighbors, but then they had to bring it forward, because by the time they built it, it was in the farmer's field, and he already planted, so. Yeah. So,
You know-
you're right, Cody, it's 2 acres to build and to avoid that, but the 2 acres is what you need to put in a second system, once the first one's done.
Yeah, I guess one comment I'd like to make too. People that have septic systems, we're not saying, no, you can't have septic systems, but we want to encourage people to tie into
Sewer.
our sanitary sewers. So we don't want to make it easy for them, I should say. That might be a little harsh to go with a septic system.
You want to encourage them.
Yes, we want to encourage them to go to our system.
But
Does
there-
our language state that? That a
State-
grandfather is actually all existing?
I didn't grab that, I rushed up here, but the
just wanted
the
to
paragraph
clarify.
in what I had last week that stated the 2 acres, the very last line in that paragraph states that.
Where was that at? Is that in this tonight?
It
No,
is
it
in
says
this tonight.
3 acres.
Well, it says 3. We just brought back what we had presented to you last time,
Yeah.
then with the information, and then Bob making the recommendations that he is. But indeed, he is correct. It's that last sentence.
Which page is that on?
This would be it's on 52073, minimum lot area. So you're in.
Okay, I see it.
Okay. So that, yeah, well,
So
so
any-
if you have an acre site or an acre and a half site, and you have to replace your system, you can do that right now, I assume, right? If you're not within this 300 foot you're proposing, right?
You know, what do people
You
do?
you
that
can do it
aren't-
by code, but you can't physically do it. You can't put a new system in with a bad one there. That-
Well, you'd have to remove the old one and,
Well, yeah, you could do that, I guess.
yeah.
I think to clarify, because we're talking about 2 things that sort of have an impact on properties, acreage and then distance from infrastructure. And so it's the distance to the infrastructure that's really the controlling thing, that if you would be, as the proposed 300 feet within, then that's when, if your septic failed, you'd be required to connect, if it's there and you're within that requirement. And I think that's where we're saying, in this minimum lot area, that we don't want to see a subdivision that has small lots, 1 acre or less, well, basically 2 acres or less, that would be in an area that's not served by sanitary sewer.
I thought last meeting, 2 weeks ago, that we had kind of requested a little bit of mapping or some zones of where this was gonna be located, or
Yes.
how many people or homes would be affected by this, and I guess we haven't seen that yet.
We haven't. It was just today that we got some information back from the county, because our information on hand was not a complete picture. They gave us data that needs to be further mined, because they said that there are 542 septic tanks going back to the beginning of their records. And so they don't know if those are all still active. So that's where we need to, in some of those areas, cross-reference whether or not there has been a change in, in the billing status in our system. So to get you the map and to get you that information, it's gonna take just a little bit longer. I mean, if you would prefer, and that's something you wanna see before moving anything forward, we can table this, or not table it, but just bring it back to the next committee of the whole in 2 weeks, when I believe that we will have that map that will be correct.
I mean, I can see that would be helpful. I don't think we should be moving to the 3 acre. if already we
Well,
know at 1 acre can't do it, but we should then stay at the 2, but.
Right.
And that's where we're recommending we stay at 2 based on the data that we saw from other cities, that going for higher acreage amounts is not really something that is what most cities are doing. So that's where we're recommending that there'd be no changes to 52.073 at this point, and we would leave it as is.
I'm kind of surprised at, we're already way above everybody. You know, and especially given Clinton's land area, which incorporates a lot of rural, areas that there's no sewer available. I don't know, have we ran into issues with this? You got a house on a 1.5
No,
acre?
none that I know of. This issue just came up because we started reviewing the sewer use ordinance, and Jason at that time thought 3 acres would be better than 2. I can't speak to Jason's thought process to that, but that's, we did the research and now we're recommending 2.
Okay.
I guess at this point, it seems to make sense that we get the map here with our, sanitary lines, where they're at, and then the maybe affected, houses or zones in that area to really determine
Well,
whether,
and that's
what acreage
especially
and what.
important with this
and what footage,
distance.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing to remember is these really are 2 separate areas. If you are in an area where you have no possibility of sewer service, then it is what it is. I
Good
mean,
point.
septic is your only choice.
But in other words, I guess maybe to clarify Cody's thought is, if we have some land in town that's an acre and a half, that it's in town, but it's nowhere near where's the sewer at to get to it. We actually, with a 2 acre requirement, you could never develop, you're just gonna have a vacant lot sit there forever.
Well, and that's where it comes, that grandfathered sentence
No,
comes
but-
in
but-
there.
But that's the lot, or I'm talking about a lot that's never been developed, yet. It's just sitting there vacant.
Yeah, then that's where that requirement would kick in.
So we kill a lot of property in this town, that somebody might find something somewhere, wanna take down some woods, and here's a house, but, well, the sewer's
Yeah.
800 feet that direction, up a hill, if you can find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're making it cost prohibitive to ever begin to develop that piece of land.
Do we have one of it? Have any
Yeah,
of those?
there are a few.
I mean, the only benefit of making 3 acres is the 3 acres may put them closer to a sewer that they'd have to tie into it.
Well, I mean,
If you make a 3 acre lot, then all of a sudden they're close enough to the sewer that they have to connect,
But
but
but I'd rather have 3 houses
I'd
on
rather
1
just leave
acre
it at
lots
2
than
and
I
wait for the
would
map.
on
Yeah.
1 house on 3 acres.
I also don't see why we're more stringent than everybody.
Again, I think the map's gonna help.
yeah.
I agree.
Tell
I
that.
think we need to see that, and I think that'll help us with the distance. I mean, these distances range only from 100 foot up to 300, most predominantly around 200. So, and this is very situational. If you're over by the bluff and you got an acre there and you're gonna hook up to sewer, but you got to go through limestone or whatever. I mean, I suppose this is a case-by-case basis, but making it more stringent than it needs to be, I mean, maybe isn't necessary.
300 feet is actually one of the least restrictive, because if you think that somebody's requiring you to connect within 100 feet, like in Marshalltown, that's gonna draw more people into your
Yes.
connection. It's gonna force more people to connect than if you're at 300 feet, like
You're
Mason
further away
said.
from the sewer.
Right.
You're
Our
further-
requirement's further away.
No, yeah, so you have to run your sewer connection a longer distance.
No, it just means that if you are within 300 feet,
you have to hook up.
right, but if
Okay.
you're
At your
within.
cost, right?
Yes, but if you're within 100 feet,
Oh, I'm
you're
thinking about
actually
this backwards,
closer
yeah,
to,
okay.
you're thinking about it backwards, you're actually closer. 300 is not the most restrictive,
Okay,
300 is
okay.
the least restrictive.
Is there a
The
ballpark,
shorter-
how much a foot, too? Just curious.
That would have to be a question for Jason.
Jason, you have a question.
So, wait a minute here.
I have no idea.
The shorter the distance, the more you have to hook up. The longer the distance, the less you have to, so it's less restrictive.
No, I think the question is, being forced, if you have to hook up, about being 300 feet away makes you have to hook up. If you're 299 feet away, you'd have to hook up, where if our requirement was 100 feet away, you wouldn't have to hook up.
Exactly, that's my point.
Yeah.
So this, being 300 is more restrictive than 100.
Yeah. It makes more people have to hook up.
Yes, yes.
And you're looking at me like you don't
Yeah.
agree.
We're
with
saying
that.
within 200 feet. Right now, the current ordinance
If-
says within 200
Right.
feet of a gravity, or sorry, with,
You're looking
gravity
at
is 400
backwards.
and pressurized system is 200. So if we're going to 250, we're gonna encompass
More people.
somebody,
Yeah.
Okay,
That's outside of
I
that
get what
200
you're saying.
foot.
Yes, you're correct.
So, like-
I'm wrong on that one.
So like, yeah, Marshalltown here, so Cody's house is 105 foot away from the city sewer, he doesn't have to hook up. If he was in
Yeah.
Clinton, he would have to hook
Yes.
up.
Yeah. But Jason, I guess a standard sewer $1 per foot, there's gotta be a
I mean, it's really kinda tough, but I mean, on the high end of things, if you're not having to bore through rock.
just
might be like-
normal, yeah,
Might be like $20 a foot at the most,
okay.
I would think. And then, so I was just gonna say is we only had, over the last, I'm talking like a 4-inch sanitary sewer, not a big forced main and a pump.
Right.
We had only in the past couple of years, we had a couple that were, outside of the 200 feet, but within the 300. And I know that it cost them more to put a septic tank and field in, but the only thing keeping them from hooking to the sewer was actually not, well, we couldn't force them to do it, was just they didn't wanna pay the sewer rates. And so, I feel like 1 or 2 a year at the most is what this is gonna capture if we take it up to 300, so it's not like we're gonna collect out a lot of income. It just seemed to me, when I looked at the Iowa code, it just says within reason. And so it seemed to me within reason to connect if you're 300 or less. And, in
Well,
fact,
well,
if
roughly-
it's by gravity, it could be within reason to be more than,
Well, roughly, you'd be saying $306,000.
yeah, on the high end of things.
And a
if you're-
septic tank is
20,
10,000?
20.
No,
It could be like, it
Is
varies.
what it is, yeah.
It very much varies, but it's about equal to that, I would say. Some less, some higher, 5,000 to 6,000.
And again, I would like to say, I think our goal needs to be is to encourage people to tie into our sewer system.
Well,
Not-
that's fine
you
if
know.
that's the goal, but reasonable and feasible are similar things here. So setting this at this 300 and you run into instances where all of a sudden you have them start it and then you're going through rock, you're going through all this and the $3,000 project turns into $6,000 and then it's no longer a feasible project. So, setting it at that, you already know you're gonna be spending some money if you're a ways away.
What would the council feel comfortable with?
I don't know.
Get the map.
Yeah.
I guess I have another question. If you're gonna put a septic in the city, you still have to get a county permit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the county still has to approve it, they still have to inspect it.
Silly with it.
If a house is sold, it has to have an inspection.
Yep, time of transfer.
Yeah, at time of transfer. So, yeah, it is monitored as far as,
but on the flip side of that, I think 2 weeks ago you had said the county basically comes back to Jason and says, what does your ordinance say? So it's kind of back to us because they don't have
Well-
anything specific.
but the septic has to be functional.
Right.
So that's really what I look at the county is doing, is there's a time where you have to, if you try to sell your house, you better have a functional septic or you have a problem. You can't sell your house.
Yeah, the only time you can sell a home without a functioning septic is if it's a foreclosure. Otherwise, it has to pass the time of transfer inspection.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that the council would really like to see a map of where, because I wasn't here last week, I'm kind of a little bit in the dark. I've been trying to catch up on this. You're wanting to see a map of showing where all the septic residences are? Is that what they were wanting to see?
It's basically, it'll be an overlay of parcels that have septic systems that we know about.
Okay.
Overlaid onto our sanitary sewer system map.
Oh, okay. Could be a very large map.
Just for my information, then, they do what, is it a perk or something test? So it could maybe be a half acre or 4 acres.
Could be.
I mean, they gotta find the right soil.
But
You
it
could have bad
depends on the
soil in
soil.
one
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah, that's a,
Yeah,
yep.
it all depends.
Okay.
If the-
That's
if
what
the
I
soil-
thought. There's
If the
no-
soil doesn't pass, then it doesn't, you can't put it where you think you're going to.
Okay, that's what I thought. It's
Yeah.
kinda
If
touchy.
if you have bad soil, then you're never gonna get a tank to be approved. Okay, so what's the council's pleasure here? Do you want to, we have a committee of the whole next week.
Is that enough time?
Is that enough time to get this done, or do you need more time?
We can try. I was gonna say more than likely, probably not, because it's really, there's
You only
just
got-
a few working days
Yeah.
left, and then
So
Monday
should we
won't be.
plan on the second committee of the whole of July?
I think that would provide us with a better time.
26. The 26th.
The
Be the
12th of
12th.
July.
12th.
Well, you want it the 12th.
Because we have the 7th, or the 5th, we also have a committee of the whole. But that's actually, 7
we
days
have?
away, but
Okay.
3 of them are not working days. Okay, so is there anything else the council wishes to have for information? You want the map, we've got, about the distance from other cities. State code, I guess that's the other question. Did we cover that? Is state code actually give a distance in the state code?
It does not,
Okay.
so we can print that out and distribute, though.
I was wondering if staff could look at it an incentive to get people to hook up to it.
Versus put in a septic?
Yeah.
I-
I mean, usually you get more done with incentives,
This is true.
We can put together some information and bring that back on the 12th.
I just have one question, I'm sorry. Yeah, the state code says 200 foot. If
Okay.
you're 200 foot from a building to the sewer.
Okay, so the
You
state
have-
code does have a distance, that's, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Jay, is that from, I'll use, is that from the corner of the building where your sewer comes out to the?
It's from the building. If you're building a new building
Uh-huh,
and the sewer is within 200 feet, you have to connect to it. If there's a public wastewater treatment facility or any connection to a public water facility available within 200 feet from your proposed building corner,
so it's a
Then-
corner of
then-
the building to the,
yes.
okay,
So we could make it more restrictive, you're saying.
so what
We
we're,
could make it, yeah,
so
more
real-
restrictive,
so-
but we wouldn't I don't think we could make it less restrictive.
well, some
Except
of these
for
already,
Marshalltown,
so
yeah.
Marshalltown has it at 100 feet.
Maybe they go by the lot, and maybe that's from the corner of the lot. I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
telling you what I read.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I don't think it makes sense to go that far backward. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
we know what the state code is. I think that's our basis point. We'll see what the map says, and we'll go from there, I think is the
Okay.
best option.
okay, whatever the council desires. Bob, did you have anything else you wanted to, Bob?
I was just gonna say, those numbers that I retrieved,
Uh-huh,
that was from the edge of the property lot. The state code might say the buildings, but
Okay.
those numbers were all from the edge of the property lot.
okay. Okay,
What do you want a motion to?
no, we don't need,
Okay.
the direction is to get
What's that?
staff to
Yeah,
provide you with
okay.
more information, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I see Ron Fletcher is here. We started without you, so we moved to item 3, so, but we'll come back to item 1. The first, item 1 is a request for an urban renewal area for Saddle Ridge. So Ron, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and explain what you're asking for.
First, I apologize for my tardiness. I was told if I rolled in at 7:30, I'd be
I
fine.
noted that already, so I covered for
Okay,
you,
good.
Ron.
She took the flack for that, for giving you a bum steer. I ran a quick meeting, we were done in 10 minutes.
Apparently
I
she thinks we
appreciate
get
it.
windy or something, I don't know.
He's still on vacation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Appreciate your time. I'm Ron Fletcher, and I represent Saddle Ridge. I'm the marketing director now. First, I'd like to introduce who are the new owners. We're in the process of changing the guard. Matt Parson from Matt Parson Construction and his business partner Chuck Marcusi are actually going to be the builders of the development. The Saddle Ridge is it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car condos, many of them with walkout basements. Price range is from around $179,900 and up. There's a lot of opportunities to personalize. Fireplaces can be added, basements can be finished, screened-in porches, things like that. So the more the customer wants, the more that can be added. They're about 1,500 square foot units. There will be 10 buildings with 3 individual condos within each building. These are 1-story condominiums. You'll recall originally we were talking about having some 2-story units, but in our marketing we found that most people wanted the ranch idea, and so all of them will be ranch, and with the opportunity to finish the basement as well. As I said, a lot of them will have the opportunity to have walkout basements with additional bedrooms and bathrooms in the basement. And I might add that everything is conform with code, with as far as finishing basements. The road has been engineered with all of the city and state's requirements in mind. We've had numerous discussions with the fire department and pretty much every city agency that exists to make sure that we're doing it exactly by the book. Also, one thing that we found in our marketing is that a lot of people are interested in age-in-place living, and so we've modified our original floor plan to take that into consideration. And so the stairwells are actually 6 inches wider than normal. So if you wanted to age in place and you still want to use your finished basement, then you'd have the option of having us or someone else install a rail with a chair in it. And it seems to be a feature a lot of people in the area are interested in. So of course, that having been said, and you have your packets that show the floor plan, site plan, all of those things of that nature. We are requesting that, I should say in behalf of Matt Parson Construction and his partner, we're proposing an urban renewal area and an eventual TIF. The reason why, we didn't originally request a TIF for this project, but as we've crunched the numbers more and seen what the infrastructure costs are, I'm sure you're aware from many of the other projects that have gotten going in town, and some of them unfortunately that haven't been able to get going, is a lot of times they're cost prohibitive because of the infrastructure that has to be added. In this case, we're looking at $600,000 to $700,000 before we build the first building, just for roads, sanitary sewer, all those things. It's a formidable expense, and you can appreciate that before you'd have the first building done, you have pretty much $1 million in this project, and you haven't taken in a dime. And a project like this, at the end of the day, the builder, the developer does want to make a little bit on it. And so that's why we're requesting that the city participate, is the way I'd like to explain it, participate in the project with a TIF. Why would the city want to do this? In the long run, it's for the city's benefit as well. Number one, it helps address the acute housing shortage that we have in the city of Clinton. I addressed that at previous meetings, and many are quite aware of how antiquated a lot of the housing stock is in Clinton, the existing housing stock. Additionally, it provides quality housing for families that are moving into town. I'm really excited to hear about the good things that are going on in Clinton. It seemed like for a while we were kind of stagnant, and there's a lot of negativity about Clinton, but I think there's a lot of positive things that are going on that are just at the threshold of happening. And so we really need more housing stock in the town, and we need new housing. Not everyone wants to do a fixer-upper. There are people that want to do that, and that's fine. But our marketing has shown that a lot of people, they just want a move-in ready home, and they want it brand new. We think that's the area of town that's growing. It's right off of the bypass. It's by the new school. It's by the technology park. 19th Avenue North is just about completed. It's a good area of town to have additional housing in. It's additionally, our rough calculations, it's hard to calculate exactly what the property tax revenue would be when the project is complete, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $150,000 a year in increased property taxes that the city would bring in for who knows how long past the time that we'll all be here. It's additionally over $6 million in new construction, which is that's a lot of money to come into the town. And when you think about the trickle-down effect of not just the fact that the builder and his partner both live in Clinton, and they use subs, all their subcontractors will be from Clinton. There's the trickle-down effect of the people that then go out and buy new furniture and appliances, and hopefully they'll decide to shop at local stores. So there's an additional trickle-down effect beyond that. And so I think the project has merit, and I'd like you to seriously consider participating in the project and helping us with the urban renewal area and a TIF. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
How soon would you start?
As soon as we get approval on all of this, and in speaking with Jessica, there's obviously meetings that have to take place. There's a process, and we're gonna push it just as fast as we can. We were talking about in the 4 to 5 month range.
Yeah, the other thing that goes along with this is the area hasn't been platted, and so that's where there's probably going to be more time than to be wrapped up in that than getting an urban renewal area together and getting things going.
The goal is that if it's a warm fall, that we would begin road construction very late in the season. If it's as mild as it was last year, the road contractors feel like they could keep working through the winter. And of course, we don't have to wait until the road is finished to start putting in basements and things like that. So hopefully, if everything went well, this time next year, we would have people that would be living in homes.
Okay. Have you started to try to find prospects, pre-sell anything?
Yes, we have, and we
Okay.
have 4 very seriously interested parties that would put money down if we legally could take it at this point.
Okay. I know Bob Edens did was pretty much finishing up that subdivision he just started a couple years ago, which those are attached to your lot lines, but similar concept, and they sold very quickly.
In fact, it's a very similar concept to this. We didn't start out trying to copy what he had, but the plans that we came up with made sense, and they make even more sense when exactly what you said. He's selling those things like hotcakes. Unfortunately, there's nothing like that in Clinton.
Okay. Do you have any idea what like the association fee will be or anything yet?
We don't have those calculations
Okay.
yet, but
And-
obviously we try to keep them as reasonable as possible.
Is there city sewer?
I was
here?
just gonna ask that. Is there city sewer out there?
We're gonna do septics.
We need a variance, right?
Are we gonna run our garbage trucks out there?
There is a sewer.
Yeah, I would just point out to you on the conceptual plan there that you'll notice that on the south side of the property, that there's a proposed lift station and then connection to a main that's along 18th Street.
It's on the
Proposed-
opposite side
okay,
of
so
the
there's a
road.
proposed lift station that would be part of this project, or? Okay.
Yes.
How long is the TIF for?
Legally, it can only be for 10 years.
Would it be similar
So-
to the TIF we just did for Lawrence?
Yes, I mean, in discussions with Ron, that was the agreement that I used to talk about basically examples and what would be possible.
This is the same property that 16 months ago, you convinced the council to change the zoning on it, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, the last presentation you made, 3 times I asked you if you're gonna ask for TIF, and you said no.
I said
And
not at
you-
this time.
No, you said no. And so now you're coming back and asking for TIF after we changed the zoning with the understanding that you would not ask for TIF.
Additionally, at this time, I'm also in the process of selling the land to the
Well,
new owners.
that's fine, but you're still involved in it, and you know exactly what you said when that was done. And at the same time, you had other complaints about me specifically. And the fact of the matter is, you stood right there and said 3 times that you weren't gonna ask for TIF.
I said I wasn't asking for a TIF at that time.
Okay. That's enough for me.
Didn't you find, Ron, that it was pretty hard to do it without getting a TIF?
It is. You know, the people that think that builders are just raking it in have a misunderstanding. It's because the infrastructure costs are just so high. It's like I was explaining, you know, in a situation like this, you've spent over $1 million before you've brought in a dime of revenue on a $6 million project that could take. We'd like to sell these all right away, but it could take 5 to 10 years with current market conditions to completely move all of them. So it's a lot of hold. You're paying interest on all of that the whole time. It seems logical to participate, to have the city participate to some extent, since the property tax that'll be collected is forever. I still technically own the land. Right now, the city's collecting $178 a year because I have it in ag.
What did it give rezone to?
R5.
Which would allow for this?
It actually allows for anything up to a 3-story building, and I've checked with the city, and there's really no density restriction. The only density restriction is that if you go beyond 30 units, you have to put in sprinkler systems, and so that's why we've kept it at 30.
Jessica, if the council would so desire to move forward, what's the first step that we need to do tonight?
It would be directing me to begin the process with our attorneys, and basically with a planner that we utilize out of Mason City that drafts up an urban renewal plan.
That's the first step that we need to,
Yep.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
Jessica, did the,
Second.
Okay, go ahead, we got a motion set. We continue
did the development
discussion.
across the street get a TIF?
Yes.
Okay. And Lawrence just got one, and, you know, Bob the builder, whatever, Beaver Builders, you know, got one. I mean,
He did not.
he did not.
No.
Okay.
Tax rebate.
He is
He got
going to
tax-
be
okay, so he's got a
applying
rebate.
for tax abatement, yes.
I think it's important to remember that, you know, in some instances, cities actually construct the infrastructure. So this is a way for the builder to recoup the costs on the infrastructure is what we're doing without coming up the money up front. So, but TIFs are tricky and they're complicated, and you gotta be careful that not everything is right for every situation, but
In some cases, the city would go and build a road for $1 million.
yes.
And then the developer never builds anything past the first building.
Yeah.
And then we have $1 million road that we're paying for,
Yeah.
and there's nothing there.
Yeah, and lastly, just so everybody's aware, that this road would be dedicated to the city of Clinton and become a public road.
Yes, at some point at what stage of the development, is it when it's finished that it is dedicated to the city?
Yeah, it's when it's, I believe when it's finished and basically would be entirely accessible, that's when it would be, dedicated over to the city, and then there's a maintenance bond of 2 years that's, provided for at that time as well.
And it's 100% built to the city specifications.
Would there be a
110%.
would there be a connection point at some point to Mill Creek off of that, or
No.
never connect
Never,
off of that
no.
again?
Can't.
Now, we do have a motion and a second to take the next step, so do we have any other discussion? If we don't, we'll have a vote. Is there any other discussion? Okay, could we have roll call, please, then?
Councilmember Seeley,
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman,
Yes.
O'Neill,
No.
Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, I see Carrie made it to at 7:30. Agreement with the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce for Celebrate Clinton campaign.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm actually gonna kick this off here, and apologize, that I recommended 7:30, and again, that was a bad choice in time.
She didn't know I was gonna be in a speedy mood tonight.
So this was something that in our first strategic planning session on May 26th that we had a little bit of discussion about, and I think there's been a lot of supporting evidence coming out in the meantime with some citizen survey results that we talked about on the 26th, and then the Chamber of Commerce and their community visioning initiative. The chamber has undertaken basically a campaign called Celebrate Clinton. They kicked it off at their annual meeting, if there were any that were there, followed by a very nice video celebrating some very positive things about Clinton and people being positive about Clinton. And so this is something that they have put together, and they've requested that we would participate. Looking at the total cost of just over 30,000 would put in half. At this point, I believe they've committed to 15,000 and will be applying for a grant for the remainder. And so that's the request at this time. I did have the city attorney draft an agreement, knowing that we would need an agreement, some sort of binding document to facilitate this. But I did want to say that this was one item from the strategic plan that is moving quicker than having the plan actually adopted. So.
Which is good.
Yeah. Odd.
It's spelled out.
Oh,
Carrie, do you have a presentation? or
I
you
do
just
not, but I will introduce myself and add a couple comments if I may.
Why don't you, in that I think the question I'm hearing is they'd
I
like to
can
know what the
present
market.
this.
Yeah, go over what the marketing plan is.
Sure. Carrie Donaire, Director of the Clinton Convention and Visitors Bureau, here tonight as a chamber staff member and member of the Community Vision Committee. So are we able to turn this on to show everybody?
Do we need the I think the projector's not on?
There we go.
I don't think the projector. There, it's coming up on TV screen, but. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, I'll be happy to review this, and something I hope that you'll all keep in mind is that all of these prices actually reflect a match from the marketing contributor because it's a nonprofit rate. So that's not included on the grid, but there is a nonprofit match. So for example, on the first item, the cable TV commercials, we met with On Media, so a local provider. Those 400 commercials per month over the course of an annual campaign. Actually, 200 of them are paid commercials, and 200 are their match for the nonprofit rate. So, further, there is a billboard component. There would be 2 billboards around the community with the content changing about every month. Then radio advertising both on KCLN, MAC 94.7 FM, and then KROS, both FM and AM dial. So also reaching different aspects of the community. Finally, newspaper, print advertising through the Clinton Herald. Again, a nonprofit match rate was used. So really trying to reach the community in different ways, reaching community members, residents, people who work here, live here, travel through the community in high traffic areas, and reaching all that way. Something that is not included verbally in this proposal, but I think I've seen the effects of recently including at the Chamber annual meeting, is just the viral marketing using a hashtag of Celebrate Clinton, Iowa, Celebrate Clintonia, Clinton IA, and really some reach through some of the social media. So that would come at no additional cost for the annual campaign, but something that we would promote through the committees, through all the print advertising as well, encouraging residents and people who live and work here to utilize that. The content, just a little bit about some of the content, is really at the brainstorming phase as we put this plan together, is really talking about some of the who's who of Clinton, people who were brought up here and have gone to great fame and fortune, talking about the strength of our school district, talking about awards that are both given to individuals, but also like the Iowa River Town of the Year from the Iowa Rivers Revival Group. There's really a very long list. So the content for the marketing will actually be, hopefully we'll have a continually lengthening list of that. What else was I going to remember to say? This will integrate with the CVB's marketing plan. That's something I wanted to mention tonight. The CVB really works to do our destination marketing, and we have a very positive effect of that. We have a lot of really, positive projects. This plan is local. It is image. It is a community image campaign. So it is not looking to overreach beyond the destination marketing, but integrate with it. So really kind of building that collective self-image at the community level. And I am sorry I was late.
No,
That's okay. It gave me more time to write more questions.
We're actually all sitting here holding it against you.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to take any questions.
How will we quantify results from this?
Well, I think one of the things that I've thought about in this, because we have a citizen survey that's got a figure with it.
So
and
we've got data now.
We've got data
Yeah.
now that is before doing anything, and the idea would be that in probably a 2-year time frame, so January 2018, that we would do another citizen survey, and that would be sort of your point of comparison, have things improved. And so it's a delayed thing, but again, this is a 1-year strategy, so we're talking about that delay being something where it does give us time to see if there is a measurable impact.
Well, how are we going to determine 12 months from now or 11 months from now, after we've started this, if we need to continue it?
I think to add to what Jessica says, because I do think the survey would be the likely litmus test a year later to say, well, we had these survey results, and do some sort of sample to work with the same questions to gather the same type of idea about the community image. But also there's a digital component to the campaign. So on the Clinton Herald's advertising, there's a digital component. So you'd be able to look at click-through rates, or if we want to drive traffic to the city's website, or just look at even the use of the hashtag or use of new social media. The easy statistics would be the digital advertising. The radio and billboard obviously is a little bit more abstract. So I think the survey follow-up would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And we utilizing just the survey that was sent out by the city, or the CVI and the cities?
We haven't
combined?
really talked about how to integrate those yet. I would say the city survey was more scientific in terms of it was sent to random individuals who had a code that they, were, not everybody got it. Whereas the focus groups that were done as part of the Community Visioning Initiative by the Chamber were more selective. People could self-select to be in that. And so, but I think there are similar results that we're seeing, and so that's where I don't think we can say that really, there's the more scientific and statistically sound data is wrong, because we have the verbal oral data to back it up as well. So I think that's where we're trying to integrate. Once I do get the copy of the citizen survey report, I've told Jennifer with the ECIA that I would get that to her so that she could see how that potentially affects her data. But overall, I think there's more similarities than differences.
I think the surveys are great. My thoughts here are is if this works, we'll know without a survey. Right? We should.
I think so.
Should.
You should be able to tell.
Yeah.
And get a sense of
we live here. We all, you should be able to tell by attitudes, if it's working or not.
If you're doing
It should-
twice as many appraisals, we're probably good
Yeah,
indication.
yeah. But you know what I'm saying. You're
Yeah,
with,
I know
you're
what
with
you're
your
saying.
group,
People
and
talk
someone
about it.
starts bringing it up. People start talking about. That's when you know it's working. Because if
Yeah. The
if your
appraisers
group-
and realtors will tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what do you think are the specific benefits to this? What's the goal? What long-term outcome is going to really help us by spending this money?
Let me answer your last question first. I think the outcome could be a collective sense of ownership over the community's image. I think that's the beauty of the broad Celebrate Clinton idea, is that Celebrate Clinton will mean something different to different people, different demographics, different social circles, but everyone can embrace it. I think it will mean something to people who return to the community. I, of course, always have that filter on for, the visitors coming through, but I think that people come home to Clinton, and they'll see that there's still pride in the community and people taking seriously the accomplishments that are happening. So for me, it's about, and this is my personal opinion, but after having participated on the committees and seeing survey results, I think the most important aspect is that it is something that we will all own and participate in and be invited to participate in.
I agree. Goes back to the quality of place, trickle up effect. I mean, this could have a lot of good impacts, and I run into this all the time. I'll meet some folks that maybe are moving up here and from another community, and they get negative things from people that live here, and some of them still move here, some of them don't, but that's unfortunate. Each community has its ups and downs, but we can be our own worst enemies in a lot of instances, and I think this is a good step in changing it. A survey of course would be nice in the end, but I don't think we'll need a survey. I think we'll know darn well if it works or not, just by people's attitudes. So
I hope
that's my
so.
thoughts.
Jessica, I think Davenport, don't they survey their every year?
Yeah, there's a lot of other cities. Generally, citizen surveys are fairly expensive endeavors to undertake. Davenport kind of does things a little bit differently with more neighborhood groups. But if you're doing just a broad random selection, to provide some statistical significance to your results, then that's where you're generally paying a company to do it. I'm hoping that this can be something that we can continue with Augustana to do, and just pay for their cost to do it and do it a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
I think to answer Cody's question before you came to town here, probably 8 or 9 years ago. DeWitt did this, and they were very successful. They had key people from the community do the commercials. It was constantly on TV, constantly broadcast, and whether it was coincidental or directly related to it, Guardian Glass started showing up, the air freshener place showed up. They tiffed about half their town, and they landed a lot of business and a
Paid
lot.
dividends for
Yeah,
it as well.
it worked
Redid
well.
their
for-
downtown.
It redid their whole downtown,
Yeah.
over the whole thing. So, I think if we look at it the same way, just one thing to mention, there's a community close to, I believe it was Elmhurst, and they just built a brand new library, and they wanted to make sure that it was a regional thing. And they had a tweeting contest, which I don't know. They had a contest of who could get the most tweets to relate the fact that the library's there. And, I mean, you put up $2,500 prize money and see who can get the most tweets, and we'll get, you get it from here to Utah at no expense. I mean, it's just an idea.
Yeah, it's a great, there's Snapchat too. Apparently we don't have a Clinton, Iowa Snapchat thing
Filter thing.
that shows you that you're in Clinton and you can embrace that. So this is that would be a free way
Yeah.
to develop the filter for Snapchat so that all the Snapchatters just say, hey, I'm in Clinton, Iowa, I'm celebrating Clinton, Iowa. So it's a good idea.
One of the things I guess I would like to see, and I know you kind of touched on it, was the social media aspect to this marketing plan. So much of it is done now with social media, and I know the newspaper had a little bit there, but even if it was shifting some costs around to really focus on what happens on social media. I know, the paper could probably tell you what they see, and there is a lot of bouts of negativity out there because people are more prone to do it behind their computer than they are to maybe, vocalize that. But even to drive that positivity out there versus the negativity, because that's what picks up. So.
That's part of the thought that I was having, I realize this is a campaign for community image. So we're marketing just really to Clinton, but I'm looking at how we're doing it, and I'm looking at the people of today. And I'll give you an example, cable TV, it's on the 5 cable channels. Well, if you don't have cable TV, you're never gonna see them. Billboard advertising, if you're driving around town, you'll see them. KCLN, MAC, if you listen to the station, if you never listen to the station, never gonna hear those. KROS, no offense, Dave, but there are people that don't listen to KROS. The younger generation doesn't, so that's not gonna be heard. So now you get down to the newspaper, so the digital part of the newspaper is probably the biggest piece. The print side, not so much, the younger generations don't read. So I'm not sure who we're reaching, if we're really reaching all the demographics in town.
Let
And
me share one more piece of information then. This is,
Okay.
Okay, the graphic you see is from On Media.
Okay.
So that really gives us some flexibility about how we choose the cable channels. So you can choose by your demographic, and within the demographic, if we say we want to gear it to families or women or whatever age group, we have the flexibility. If we want to hand select those cable channels, we're able to. And then to your point about reaching a younger audience, my understanding through the Herald's digital, we would be able to even include geographic or psychographic. So there's some capabilities with the digital advertising that you're able to choose your audience a little bit.
I'm just concerned because like you're showing me that there, I'd never be able to see one of them because I have Dish. People have Direct. You have people that just have just a plain antenna. When you talked about, I remember DeWitt's advertising that they did years ago. They were actually on the big channels down on Channel 6 and Channel 8 and
On networks.
On networks where everybody gets that, even if you've got Dish or Direct, because those are commercials that are playing during the news. You see them. They might have had them on one night a week, but they were there. LeClaire does quite a bit of that. They spend the money. Yeah.
I would say that's really a good point, just because having bought advertising a lot, it's a very difficult thing to try to do, to balance, especially with, being serviced by Dish or
We don't have
DirecTV or
one.
MediaCom or whoever it is. You're either getting one or not the other, and
Well,
that's
that's
why
what
it's
I'm just
difficult.
concerned about, if we're hitting all the market. And I'm really thinking of the younger generations that use alternate sources of media than what, my old generation is used to doing. So, and then the other thought that I have, and I don't know if this has been approached, but, you have the chambers footing some of the bill, you're asking the city. We're trying to market the school district. Have you asked the school district to contribute to this?
I don't want to speak to the chamber's composition, but the chamber aspect of the budget, I believe, is fundraising and some that's already in the chamber budget. So I'm not sure if the school district has been approached.
Because, I guess that's one of the things that we learned from our Fort Dodge trip, that a lot of groups work together, and the school district is a partner in as far as marketing the city. And, we're marketing them, we're trying to promote their district, they're doing a fine job of improving their image, but yet, I'm not sure that we should be doing all the costs for them, that they should be a partner in this. That's just my opinion.
And I don't know if that conversation has been had yet, so I don't want to assume that it has or hasn't.
Going back quite a long time ago, before any of this came about, when I can't remember, it was you and I and someone else, I had talked with Deb and just said, hey, we were thinking about some things, what do you think? And she said she would be interested on discussing it more. I never contacted her again about it, so I think we probably should contact them to discuss it, so.
And I think she's been included on some of the community vision informational meetings and
Yes.
such, but
Yeah.
that conversation should be had specifically.
And that's where I would say that's a conversation for the chamber to have, since
Yeah.
this is their campaign. We're just being asked to be a contributor to the campaign.
Yeah. I think going back to the cable TV thing, it kind of maybe more quality advertising versus quantity. I would rather have it on some of the bigger stuff less often than a bunch on stuff no one ever sees. You know what I mean? And I think social media is gonna probably get us the furthest out of all this. Everybody will see the billboards too around town, of course, and I'm sure that some advertisements on like the buses and stuff.
I guess my other question would be is this set in stone if the city, decides this is gonna be funded? Is there any input that we would have giving $30,000? Would that be flexible at all?
Really, the way this is written is not to be flexible, and I think the thing to step back and remember is the chamber is undertaking this, and yes, they're asking for money, but the idea was not that anybody from the city would be directly involved in determining the advertisement or really participating in it. That this is, we're being asked to fund it, not to manage it. I guess that's probably the best way. And so what you have in there is Exhibit A, and it's referenced as Exhibit A. And so that's where I think if there's some disagreements with that, we would want to probably propose that. But at this point, it's $30,000 towards the cost of a campaign, and Exhibit A is what they're saying they would intend to spend it on.
I think of, our conversations we had a little about doing it ourselves and forming a committee and would be a whole year even getting started. So I think this is a great way to get started. I think it's more than reasonable because, I don't know advertising, but, I was thinking 50 to 100 in my mind to get something decent going, so. I just think this is kind of a great way to get started
And I think we can review this,
Yeah.
and I know you guys will be as well, as time progresses. I mean, is there something saying that if you determine 6 months down the road, you have to spend the money this way? I mean, if you determine a better way to allocate some of these funds 6 months from now, are you locked in stone into doing it?
Do you mean in the agreement here that's proposed?
And yeah, in this breakdown.
Well, most of those are probably contracts that you're gonna agree with.
Yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, these would all, yes, correct, Cody, these would be annual contracts.
Okay.
I would just say, the network that CBB has with other Visitors Bureau is light years ahead of where we'd even be if we formed a committee with a lot of people that knew anything about advertising, which I don't think we have anyone that really that good at, except for someone who owns their own business. But the way I'm looking at it is whatever we get out of this is better than what we're getting now. I mean, we're not doing that.
We're not doing anything,
Yeah,
right?
so, I mean, we need to, for 30 grand, we take a stab at it. If 10 families hear it and move to town, it's a no-brainer.
Hopefully it's so successful, we double it next year.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I would just add, I think without a specific marketing person on city staff or, someone who's really charged with this workload, working through the chamber and the community vision committee, and with my support, I feel like that's a great best case scenario to get started. So that's how I look at it.
I move we move it forward to the next, council meeting?
Second?
Yeah, it would be the next council meeting. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions of Carrie or any other comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Connell,
Yes.
Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley,
Yes.
McGraw,
Yes.
Detterman.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we'll get back on order here, and we'll be down to item number 4, chapter 53.
And I think what I can tell you is just a little bit of
Okay.
update. There was nothing that was really coming back in a change. We were just keeping it on the agenda to keep it in live discussion if there was to be changes on chapter 52. Just today, I did get the report from Augustana, which Bob and Jason and I were going to review hopefully by the end of the week. Won't be on July 5th for a discussion, but we'll put that report in conjunction with the amendments that were proposed to chapter 53 on the July 12th committee of the whole, if that's acceptable.
Nothing else to do with item 4?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to item 5.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
No, back up here. No, number 4 here, I thought we had a discussion about the fees.
Yeah, and what I was
Surcharge.
Yes. And so basically what I had said and was sort of the consensus was that these two chapters, chapter 52 and 53, need to move together. And so if that section, which was I think 53.07, needed to come out in order for chapter 53 to move at the same pace as chapter 52, that was acceptable.
You're
Because
pulling
there
it.
is,
Okay.
yeah,
But it's still
so
in
there's
there.
nothing
Yeah.
moving
Okay.
forward at this point,
Right, we're
but
not-
hopefully there will be
You'll come
some,
back again.
Okay.
hopefully there will be some conversation around the Augustana report related to stormwater, which might change your mind on that.
Okay.
We were trying to slip one by you.
I thought so. I thought, wow, this is moving way too quick.
No.
He knew he had an itch, he just
It's
didn't know how to
coming
scratch
back.
it.
It'll be back.
See if you're awake.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5 then, which is the Clinton County Area Solid Waste Agency's fees and charges. Councilmember O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet, you've got the original page, it says item number 5. On the back of it, you have a kind of an example of what we pay for the solid waste cost. And then there's a letter on the next page from Brad Seward, who runs the operation. And this was from back in 2015, I believe. This was an answer to possibly Councilman Grant Wilkie's inquiry, which he did not get to follow up on this operation because of his retirement. So this has kind of been on the burner for at least 18 months, if not 2 years. And really, with the previous council, we put in a secondary position to get through the sewer rate project and not have to concentrate on two big things at the same time. One of the things that's been kind of contentious is that we have a tipping fee. I gave you a copy of at your desk. It has those pages on it. Number 8 was the last page, but I think on page 6, it gives you the where this was brought up back in 2005. There was a letter to the committee of the whole. And if you turn to page 6, at the bottom, it starts down there where this was brought up. And at that time, Councilmember Roger Holm was in the same position I'm in as a representative. And it was brought to everyone's attention that this was raised from $5 to $10 because the DNR was requiring a new cell. Well, we built the new cell, plus we built another new cell. And so some of the conversation that's gone on for the last 15 to 18 months is that right now, we're being assessed $44 per ton. And then on this other sheet, it gives you there's a list of the haulers that are also hauling out there. And that'd be River City, Green RU, Mooring Disposal, Republic, which is AV. You don't have that sheet, I'm just, this is one Pat put together for me, and also Hensley. Now, River City Disposal, and Mooring and Hensley pay $30 a ton, and that's for industrial and commercial waste. And Republic, who is the biggest, who puts in 19,000 tons a year, it's charged $25 a ton. So we're on the high side, and one of the things I brought up is, they're based on that because they said they'll bring in a certain amount of tonnage, but when they come out there is no checks and balances that they're bringing in residential garbage or they're bringing in commercial, and every truck from the city of Clinton, the only thing we bring out there is residential. So my proposal, we had a budget meeting last night, and I kind of slowed it down a little bit because I didn't want to approve a budget or go through the budget process and come back and say, I've talked to my colleagues on the council, and we'd like to see some of these fees be more equitable, since we're the biggest user. And, constituents I've talked to think we're not getting the best deal out there. Some of us have been here for a while, the mayor and Paul and Tom. This has been brought up a number of times, and it just never seemed like a good time to do it. But when we're ready to pass a budget, I thought it was a good time to bring it up because I want the budget based on maybe some changes in the fees. So bringing that up last night, I figured I would either get to talk 10 minutes and be asked to leave, or talk for a while. And it was very good conversation. They, before the midpoint of the night, which would last until 9 o'clock, there was some recognition that it was a viable, not complaint, but it was a viable thing that we have some other options. And we got single stream recycling coming up that we probably should look at. Right now, it'd be an operation where it would streamline our operation and get rid of a lot of cost, and none of it being labor. Would not be losing any jobs in the solid waste department. And so we talked about the tipping fees, and we talked about the assessment. And so they began, if we change it for us, we change it for everybody. So then everybody became interested in it. And they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm not here authorized to do anything. I'm bringing this up as a discussion point so I can bring it back to my colleagues tomorrow night, see what they want to do. And so we agreed to have that done, and we're going to meet again on the 6th to discuss what we discussed here tonight, get some confirmation on it, and then move on with the budget, because they need to pass a budget. This would take effect July 1st of this year. So basically what was left on the table, and this will get to the short end right now, is that there's an amiable position where we can reduce the tipping fee to $40 and the assessment down to $7. And my recommendation is that the board seriously consider increasing the fee for some of these commercial dumps. From 25 maybe to $35, and have us at 40. Everybody pays 40. Everyone gets billed 40. Comanche, every city in there gets billed $44 right now. The question is whether the haulers are really getting charged 44, and whether there is no way of validating it. And I take everyone's word at it that they're trying to do the best job, but I don't usually quote Ronald Reagan, but he liked everything verified even though he believed everybody, and I do too. But the fact of the matter is there is no verification to it. So I think the equitable thing to do is to raise up some of the, have the board raise up some of those fees for the commercial haulers that are bringing in the biggest amount of tonnage overall. The argument last, or I guess the counterpart last night was, well, if we raise theirs, they'll take theirs to Morrison, and we'll lose it. My, I guess, business sense tells me if you've got $60,000 worth of garbage coming in, you got $60,000 worth of expense to cover it up. So it's kind of a wash if you're a nonprofit organization. And by 8:30, the other two that were there kind of saw my point and said that, you know, it was something they would pursue after I talked to you guys tonight. So that's probably the best case scenario. I didn't make any promises. I told them I'd show up Wednesday regardless. And so I wanted to bring it to you folks to see if that's something you want me to pursue.
The first question I got, I thought they were running a deficit as it is, and they were pulling money out of the reserves to operate.
Well, that's one of the things.
So if you cut the revenue, it's really gonna get bad.
Well, here's one of the things that the original head assessment or tax or head tax or when it was brought up was to build new cells, and that's all it's supposed to be used for. Over the years, it's been used for operation, and one of my predecessors' contention is that it's not to be used for operations, and that revenue bonds need to be issued for that, just like any other operation. And so, you know, the fact that we have the biggest head tax, it directly affects us. It affects everybody if we lower it. But the fact of the matter is that there's a very healthy reserve, and I would also like to, as we go along, I would also like the finance committee to take a look at the financials and from there and look and see if they're seeing the same thing I am. And so there's no reason to keep that $10 assessment on there.
My only recollection of it, I thought the $10 was the closing fee of the landfill, that the DNR says they
Well,
have to have this reserve build up at the end to close it.
But how much reserve
If
do
you-
need?
Well, that I don't know.
Well, but that statement is incorrect, because if you look at that page 6,
Yeah.
Councilman Holm was very specific that the only reason they instigated moving from 5 to 10 is because the DNR said they had to build a new cell. Most people's recollection is this was gonna be a temporary thing, or that was what was insinuated. And so that they had to build a new cell, and that's been done, but the assessment has still stayed.
Yeah, I know that's what it says here, but it was always my recollection that per capita fee was always the big reserve, that whenever you close, it's 10, 20, $30 million.
Oh, it's not that much to
Well,
close, so.
well, that's what they
But they've
were.
closed cells.
Well, yeah.
No, not closed cells, close the land, well, and it's
Well.
filled up and it's done, you're gonna monitor it forever.
Well, we got a long way to go with that one.
Yeah, no.
Well,
And I don't know what the life is anymore. At one time, it was always 5 years and they were gonna close, so. I don't know what that feature is now.
Well, perhaps the $5 was for closing fee, and the additional $5 was for
For
another
the cell.
purpose.
And I think that's why
Maybe.
one of my predecessors went in and asked to get it back down to 5. And that didn't happen, and I'm not gonna go into why or why not. The idea of reducing it to 7 and getting the fee down to 40 and increasing the big commercial haulers is palatable to at least the other two are there. Now, to kind of give you some insight, I mean, the voting on the solid waste is weighted by population. And so it does take the city of Clinton and one or two others to get something passed. And so I would imagine when we propose this, that all of them would be in favor, because they're all gonna reduce the garbage bill in their town. And we're gonna probably offset that by raising the solid waste. to what I did this afternoon, when I got this information, I did call Jessica and asked her to get Anita together and to give you a figure of what that would represent. The head tax, it would reduce our our outlay starting July 1st by $80,190. And the landfill, if it went from 44 to 40, would reduce it by $23,500, which would give us a savings of $104,190 a year. So, there is another component that we need to address and talk about later, that we talked about and ran the numbers, that has nothing to do with the landfill or the solid waste board, that would bring in another $246,000. So it's something else that we need to discuss. That has really nothing to do with this. So I guess what I'm asking is, on the 6th, which would be a week from tomorrow, I can go back and say, I've talked to my colleagues, they're interested in pursuing this, and, we can move forward, and if it's done, we can pursue a budget, base our budget on those new numbers. That's what's, I guess, the time part of it, is they need to pass a budget in our July meeting, but there's no sense in passing a budget if we're gonna come back a month later and try and pursue this.
But isn't it true that they're running a deficit budget anyway? The last couple of years, they're running,
No.
they're taking money out of the, anyway, the meeting I was there, they were taking money out of the $10, what they called reserve, to operate.
They're
They
taking
shouldn't be
it
doing
out,
that.
they're taking it out of the assessment because they don't wanna issue revenue bonds.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to take it out of something else and not issue any bonds either, but that's what we do for the cities to operate.
And I think what Ed's trying to say is the money that's been set aside is not to be used for operational expenses. Its intent was never to run the day-to-day
Right.
operation.
But then I need the expertise of the finance committee. From what I see in the balance sheet of the financials, they've got $5 million in reserve
Yeah.
right now.
And what are they, do they have a legal requirement, like,
No.
No,
like maybe health insurance or something, they have so
No.
much reserve?
No, no, there isn't any of it.
There isn't?
I've looked at that for a long time, because it's always frustrated me that that's like one of those extra pots out there that just keeps growing, and they're tapping into it for purposes not what its intention was, and.
Well,
we
that's the
don't-
only thing that bothered me, is they were tapping
Yeah,
into
but
it when they said they weren't
they
supposed to.
shouldn't- well, then they shouldn't be tapping into it, they should be balancing their budget.
And Mark's correct. The head tax in itself is, the way I look at it, is an entitlement money that comes in and is always gonna be there. And what it does do, it does reduce the idea that someone's gonna think out of the box to get a new source of revenue, or it does not incentivize them to find ways of reducing costs or cutting expenses, because, it's just automatically there, and it was there to build a cell, and that's been done, and now it's used for operations, and that's not correct.
Are they tied into an operator's contract to run, they hire somebody to run the landfill?
They got an engineering firm. yeah.
No, the equipment, they hire somebody to move all the dirt and do all the work.
Yeah.
And if you lower our fees, they can't lower his if he's got a contract.
Well, but, if we lower those fees and increase the commercial,
It washes out.
they're gonna have to do some moving around, but the other two members who are there are okay with this coming back, if you're agreeable to do it.
I just don't wanna put them in bankruptcy.
No, we're not gonna, we're not gonna.
I guess
do that.
keep in mind, some of these other small municipalities have a Republic or a private service that's actually doing their little
Yeah.
town pickups,
They all
so,
do.
and that's one of the things I think maybe you stated, we don't know if, maybe they're getting a $25 rate, but their little township
Yeah.
is getting assessed at
Well,
44.
And here's
There you
my
go.
scenario. I
You know,
guess,
and that's
from
another,
from being in
That's not
business,
right.
is there's
Right.
nothing to say that they don't go out to 3 or 4 towns in the front end, have it packed up with residential, and then go pick up a load of commercial from 80 MGM or Equistar or something. And when they go through the gate, they say this is commercial, and they get charged $30, and they're actually, I have no doubt that all these cities are being billed $44.
Right.
So the idea that they're getting, the cities are getting a cut on it is not true. That's been something that's been tossed around. But there is no checks or balance, and there's no way to